Well, I think that it's the natural order of things, quite frankly. If you look at society generally, men and women work at the workplaces everywhere. They work together. To keep men and women, to keep children separate is not natural. Natural is for people to be working together. And indeed, here in Gibraltar, all the way up to comprehensive school, we have a co-educational system. So I think it's about time that we had a debate about whether Gibraltar ought to move to co-education at comprehensive level. Now, there are various models, of course. We may have, for example, co-education just simply for A-levels and not have co-education for GCSEs. But I think there has to be a debate, and I think we've really got to, the time has come for this to be considered very carefully.
You said that it's in the natural order of things for people of both sexes to work together. Why then aren't you sure whether you would want to reintroduce it at GCSE or at A-level? Surely the consistent thing would be for boys and girls to be together throughout their school career.
Well, our policy has been that we believe in co-education, but you've got to have an element of engagement with stakeholders, with parents, with the children concerned, with the school teachers, in order to hear what their views are. Because, Daniel Feetham is not an educator. Daniel Feetham and the GSD as a political party can say, well, we believe in co-education. But of course, we also need that engagement with the rest of society in order to have their own views. And the way that you do that is just by having a debate, by having a consultation process, for example. We're now going to be launching online a consultation process of our own to see how people feel about this particular subject. But there are different, as I say, different models in relation to it. And, we may decide, for example, to test it at A-level, not necessarily GCSE. I know that there are strong views in certain sections of society about this. School teachers have to also, and indeed we've had the view expressed to us, well, how does it affect us in terms of our job prospects, promotions? We've had two schools, for many, many years, so there's two different lines of promotion. We've got to make sure that people are not adversely affected, but there are ways and means of doing this. And at this stage, I think that what is required is for us to look at all those alternatives and to have a good debate about it.
The GSOP Liberals, of course, didn't have co-education in their manifesto at the last election, so one would have to assume they don't necessarily think this is the best thing for Gibraltar. Now, you're planning to take a motion on this matter to Parliament at the end of September. The chances are that the motion will be defeated, don't you think?
Well, not necessarily, because a few days after the general election, the Chief Minister was asked about co-education on one of your programmes on GBC, and he said that it is something that perhaps we ought to be considering and exploring. So I would expect the government, as any reasonable government would do, is to come to this with an open mind. Simply because the government didn't have this as a manifesto commitment of theirs doesn't mean that they should close their shut their eyes to worthwhile endeavours, even if they come from the opposition. So not necessarily so. We're going to be testing the waters, obviously, in Parliament to bring this particular motion and have a debate about it in Parliament. But where we ought to be having a debate and where we ought to be asking for people's views is out there in society, and that's what the GSD is going to be doing through the process of engagement that we've started as well in other areas earlier on this year on this specific issue.